Oh, hey guys. Yeah, so I'm fucking just chilling again. I have limited responsibilities right now, and which has its you know, it's nice to just do nothing. You know what I mean? Anyways, this video is for entertainment and education purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong, so do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see if I can get my phone's charging right now, so makes it harder to position the camera. There we go. Whoa! Look at that, huh? Let me step over here and adjust the lighting a little bit. There. We're gonna get rid of this light over here. There we go. Yeah. Let me see. What would it look like without that? Yeah, that's good. Very good. Very good. Yeah, so I'm just gonna shoot the shit. There's been something on my mind for the last few days that I've kind of felt like talking about. So I'm going to talk about that, and then maybe I'll go into some other stuff too. Okay. Well, so there's a friendly acquaintance of mine who is going through some stuff with the local government. And it's actually kind of complex, and I think I don't really know all the details, and I also think my friendly acquaintance may be leaving details out, because that makes his story better, sound better, which would be beneficial to him. Because if he can get other people involved, it will help him deal with this issue he's having with the government. And, whatever. We all do this from time to time, where we over-exaggerate our story, or we'll omit certain details in order to make ourselves look good, so that we can, whatever. Anyhow. And so I'm a little confused on this story. I'm not really sure. But anyways, and I've kind of tried to understand, like, what is it that's going on? Because, I mean, if it's my duty to get involved, then I would like to understand that, because then I can proceed further. I can proceed to the next step. Like, okay, well, if it's my duty to get involved, like, okay, well, now what can I do? What ought I do? What ought not I do? Etc., etc. But see, I can't really get to that point because there's a lot of things that are very unclear, right? Which is neither here nor there. I don't know what to make of that. And really what it comes down to is that it's none of my business. That's kind of a contradiction, though, because then his part of his kind of like public statement is that this is other people's business and people should really be getting involved because this is a government problem. And so, and so, I've had a lot of discussions with him trying to understand, like, what exactly is this? Why exactly is this, like, something, that is my duty to get involved? Why? Why is it my duty, and I can't get a clear, direct answer. And so, like I said, when I can't get a clear, direct answer, I just have to assume, well, it's probably really not none of my business. And it isn't something that I ought to really be getting involved in. That doesn't mean that I oppose his cause, but I just don't see any real reason in endorsing his cause either. Okay. But one of the kind of rallying cries he puts out is kind of like, we need to stand up for the little guy. And this kind of opens up a can of worms. Because haven't we heard this before, haven't we heard this before, how we need to stand up for the little guy? An example of that is Bernie Sanders. That was Bernie Sanders' whole political pitch, was Bernie Sanders is going to stand up for the little guy. And part of Bernie Sanders' whole pitch is instead of it being a top-down system with the trickle-down effect, where all the resources and wealth and everything goes to the top and then trickles down, it should be reversed, where it's a bottom-up instead of a top-down system. And this is Bernie Sanders' pitch, to get elected, is that he's going to reverse the top-down system so that it's a bottom-up system. For the little guy, because we need to stand up for the little guy. And so I'm like, I could see right through Bernie Sanders from the very beginning. And I lived in California during that time. And so there's a lot of my friendly acquaintances and associates and people that I knew who were totally sold on Bernie Sanders because, we need to stand up for the little guy. Right? We need to stand up for the little guy, and that's why Bernie Sanders is so fucking awesome, right? And people were practically begging me, you need to look into Bernie Sanders, man. And I never looked into Bernie Sanders because I already know the game. I already pretty much knew what it was all about. But, living in California, all these people begging me, no, you really need to listen to Bernie Sanders. You got to check him out. And so after a while, I was just like, okay, I'm not a closed-minded person. But I already pretty much knew. I already had my assumptions of what I was going to be presented with. And so, but I put it to the acid test. I said, okay, I'll put this to the acid test, keeping in mind that I believe I pretty much know what his pitch is. But I'll listen to him. And sure enough, I go and I put it to the acid test and I listen to what's Bernie Sanders' pitch. And it's all for the little guy. I'm here for the little guy. I already know how to decode that message. When somebody's like going on and on about how, I'm for the little guy and I'm starting this group and we're for the little guy. We're for the, we need to end this top-down system and reverse it so it's bottom up. I already know how to decode that language. It's like total, and it's very easy to decode this. It's just a cheap snake oil salesman pitch, But it just amazes me how so many people will believe it. Like I said, I had all these people in California like practically begging me, no, you need to check out Bernie Sanders, man. He's our man. That's it. California is just like that. California is an extremely politically charged state. Everybody's talking about racism all the time in California and stuff like this. And that's why I left California. It's an extremely politically charged state. And the majority of Californians are socialists, you know, and I have friends that in California, and they're like Democrat and all about Bernie Sanders and all that. I was like, whatever, dude. I mean, I don't know, you know, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that, because I already know how to decode Bernie Sanders' language and all these other people like him who talk about the little guy, how we need to stand up for the little guy. See, because I have a different view of who the little guy is than your average person. See, your average person thinks that they're the little guy. Your average person can't see these masses of homeless people that plague every major city in just California alone. All these masses and hordes of homeless people that plague every major city in California are completely invisible. It's like they literally have the magic spell of invisibility. I mean, literally, not figuratively. Homeless people are magic. They have the ability to cast the spell of invisibility, where they can literally become ghosts. They're you can't even see them. They're not even there. And it's hilarious. And it makes me wonder, wow, I mean, wouldn't it be cool to just become invisible? Wouldn't it? I mean, there's got to be advantages to being the invisible man. Is there not? There's got to be. I mean, think about it. What if you were invisible? I mean, yeah, sure, there's probably a lot of disadvantages to being invisible, but I bet you there's a lot of advantages to being invisible as well. And homeless people are literally invisible to the masses, like literally invisible. They are totally unseen. And you can have masses and hordes of them plaguing cities nationwide, and they're totally invisible. They have the ability to just, of invisibility. You know, like in a comic book or something. They are the invisible men. The invisible man. So when we're talking about standing up for the little guy, you know, like that's Bernie Sanders' whole pitch. Well, and like I said, my friendly acquaintance who's going through all this stuff right now in regards to his property and how the local government is coming in and they're gonna fucking basically they're gonna take his property from him, because the government claims that the shit that he's doing on his property is illegal. And he's like a libertarian. So a libertarian believes that they can do whatever they want with their property, as long as it's not harming others, you know. And so if they want to grow, if they want, you know, to just have masses of piles of junk piled up in their front yard, well, they have every right to do so, and the government has no right to tell them what to do. That he's a libertarian like that. So, but the government says otherwise. The government says you can't just pile up massive piles of junk all over your front yard, because it looks like shit and it's offensive to neighbors. You know, it makes the town look bad. And so either you clean it up, or we're gonna fucking come and you're not gonna like what we, the government, do to you. And my friendly acquaintance, being a libertarian, says, absolutely not, I will not clean it up. You're violating my constitutional rights. And so the government is now intervening and coming over with bulldozers and massive dumpsters and coming onto his property and taking all this junk and throwing it in and they're tagging him for the cost of all this. Like, by the time it's over, he's going to owe them so much money that they're going to confiscate his property. Okay. And so he's saying this is a constitutional rights violation, and how, all the people in the community need to band together with him and stand up against this evil government. And one of his sales pitch type things is stand up for the little guy. We need to start standing up for the little guy. And so let's go back to, it appears as though everybody kind of cherry picks what they want the little guy to be. Because, when I hear the stand up for the little guy, I immediately think, well, the homeless are the littlest people of all. If we're going to stand up for the little guy, well, the obvious place to start is all these masses and seas and hordes of homeless people. But like I said, they're all invisible. Nobody, whenever, when Bernie Sanders says, we're going to stand up for the little guy, Bernie Sanders is not talking about the homeless at all. Bernie Sanders is pretending as though the homeless don't exist, and that the little guy is not the homeless. It's and really, Bernie Sanders is, when he says the little guy, he's talking about the middle class. So it isn't even the working class when he says we're going to stand up for the little guy. Well, who is the little guy to Bernie Sanders? I mean, Bernie Sanders owns several mansions, and Bernie Sanders is extremely wealthy compared to you or me. So to Bernie Sanders, the upper middle class is the little guy. Bernie Sanders conveniently ignores anyone below upper middle class. Those people are so irrelevant, they may as well be invisible. See, and I already knew that that's how Bernie Sanders thinks. And so when all these people are telling me, no, man, you need to go check out Bernie Sanders, man. Oh my God, he is the one, The revolution is here. Bernie Sanders is leading the revolution to stand up for the little guy. So, but see, like I said, when I hear stand up for the little guy, I automatically assume the little guy is the person the poorest of people in this country, which would be the homeless. But when people talk about we need to stand up for the little guy, they're not talking about the homeless. They're completely bypassing the homeless. They're cherry pickers. And this is everywhere. You'll hear conservatives talk about how, Trump is about standing up for the little guy. No, he's not. Because the little guy is the homeless. And if you think so you're an ignoramus if you don't see the homeless that are obviously visible in every major city across this country, and you just don't even see the homeless. You're totally ignorant. You're as ignorant as Cypher is in the movie The Matrix, where he's just give me some steak and plug me in, and let me just believe whatever I want. So if I want to believe that, Jeff Bezos is the little guy, then that's what I get to believe, because I'm just because that's just what I want, and believe whatever I want. So just plug me in, just jack it in there real deep, because I'm a dumb I just don't give a fuck about, fuck everything and whatever, who cares? You're an ignoramus if you don't understand that the little guy is the homeless bum eating out of a dumpster. The little guy isn't some middle class person. So it doesn't matter whoever it is that's saying we need to stand up for the little guy, It's dude, whenever I hear that, I already know how to decode that language. It's very easy to decode that language. That means keep ignoring all the homeless people, First and foremost, continue to ignore all the homeless people. That's what stand up for the little guy means. First and foremost, perpetually ignore all these fucking hundreds of thousands of homeless Americans plaguing every major city. That's what stand up for the little guy means. I already know how to decode this like retarded clown world language. And you see it everywhere. Like the Trumpers think that Trump is for the little guy. It's all the same whether it's Obama or Trump. It's all the same. Even the apolitical people think that this non-political movement is something that's going to happen. All it's going to be is the same thing as everything else. They're going to stand up for the little guy again. It's all about standing up for the little guy, right? Because Republican and Democrat is two wings of the same bird, so we need to stand up for the little guy. And it's the same thing as what Bernie Sanders' pitch of stand up for the little guy and all this shit about Trump standing up for the little guy. It's all the same. It's an easily decoded language. And I'm telling you, what stand up for the little guy first and foremost means is continue to ignore all those hundreds of thousands of homeless people plaguing every major city in this country. That's what standing up for the little guy means. And nobody questions this or even acknowledges the truth of this, where they're like, Angry Hobo's right. Whenever anybody says we need to stand up for the little guy, it always means the same thing. Ignore the homeless in our stance to stand up for the rights of the little guy. It's first and foremost, just ignore all these homeless people everywhere. That's what standing up for the little guy means. Whenever anybody brings it up, whether it's my friendly acquaintance who the government is coming down on his property, and so now all of a sudden he's like, hey, we need to stand up for the little guy. Well, who is the little guy? To him, he's the little guy. He's the little guy, not the homeless. So if there's some homeless fucking elderly out here, obviously destitute, my friendly acquaintance doesn't care about that person or people. The little guy is my friendly acquaintance who's getting picked on by the government, not that homeless elderly that's obviously destitute. That's just garbage. You don't even pay any attention to that. But we need to pay all this attention to the Bernie Sanders of the world, right? We need to pay all this attention to, oh my God, all the corruption. It's the little guy. We're the little guys. We're the 99% of little guys. They are the 1%. We need to stand up for the little guy. It's just more clown world fucking jokes that write themselves based in pure stupidity and ignorance as to what the reality of everything is. Everything is to escape reality. Not to address reality. It's to make it up as we go along, whatever is just gonna fit our paradigm. It's the Jews is the same thing. So anyways, whatever. It's everywhere all the time in everything, and it never goes away. Every time I hear this, we need to stand up for the little guy, I already know it's total bullshit. Like with the capital B, fucking bullshit. So anyways, whatever, man.